Francis of Assisi's name. If you're like my husband and daughter, you think of animals. It's true. Francis loved and saw the divine reflected in the natural world, including earth, wind, fire, sun, moon, stars, water. Let's today explore whether Francis's example offers us a message in 2020. Francis knew that everyone and everything was sacred, that all of life was interconnected, and that the purpose of Scripture was not to be recited, but to be embodied. It was his words that we often hear: preach the gospel. If necessary, use words. After his experience as a prisoner of war at the age of 20, Francis renounced his family's wealth and embraced poverty. He died at the age of 44. So he accomplished a lot in those 24 years. Would it surprise you to learn, although Francis lived in the 13th century, he could serve as a model for foreign service today? He advocated for diplomacy as a peacemaker during the time of the Crusades. In fact, Richard Rohr, one of my favorite Franciscans, describes Francis as the only Christian ever to attempt 3 trips to dialogue with the enemy during the Crusades against Muslims in the Holy Land. Rohr goes on to say, there is no similar precedent for such behavior before or in the centuries since. Tired of the Crusades and the violence, in the year 1219, Francis demanded an audience with the Sultan Malik al-Kamil and journeyed to North Africa. Let's assume that journey was a distance of about 1,500 miles. That's roughly comparable to the distance between here in Philadelphia and Denver, Colorado, where Carol and Stan are flying to this week. How long is your flight? 4 hours. I'm pretty sure in the 13th century, it took well more than 4 hours to travel 1,500 miles. On foot, by animal, perhaps by boat. Imagine what was involved in crossing the Mediterranean 7 centuries ago. Upon arrival, here's the conversation between Francis and Malik, as presented by Mirabai Starr in her book on St. Francis of Assisi. As-salam alaikum, the Sultan said to the friar when Francis entered his tent. The peace of God be upon you. Alaykum, as-salam, Francis answered, and may his peace also be with you. Francis knelt before Malik. Tell me about your faith, the Sultan said. I want to know everything about that which lights such a heart as yours on fire. Francis spoke in a rush of passion and joy, anguish and acceptance, and Malik listened with gratitude and respect. At last, the Sultan whispered, La ilaha illallah, to which the friar responded, there is no God but God. Muhammadah Rasulullah, Malik added, and Muhammad is his messenger. Francis smiled and said, and Jesus is his word made flesh. The Sultan burst out laughing, pulling the poor man of Assisi to him, hugging him first on the left and then on the right. I am afraid today is not my day to become a Christian, Malik said, though your religion is beautiful. Nor will I convert to Islam, Francis said, though your prophet seems to understand the teachings of my Lord. Thank you for the gift of your wisdom, the Sultan said to the friar. And now I grant you safe passage back to the Christian side of the dividing line. You are always welcome to come speak to me and my people of your faith. Pray for me, Brother Francis. Take a moment now to reflect on just how revolutionary it was that in the 13th century, Francis risked his life to literally be an instrument of peace. That he humbled himself to the point of walking into a situation that meant almost certain death. And that, when he did that, Malik recognized the heart of a fellow Sufi in Francis, a heart on fire with love. Imagine how our world would look today if we had Francis of Assisi to guide us in fostering diplomacy and negotiating peace. My friends, in these tumultuous times, when the world as we know it is threatened, we are called to do what Francis did. Be a nonviolent presence, to see, to reflect, and to embody love, to engage in dialogue with those whose perspectives are different than our own, and to do it with kindness. Certainly, in these United States, one action each of us can take is to vote. Francis did not come from the generation of screaming prophets. He was one of the silent holy ones who heal through being invisible. Francis models peace and recognized that peace begins in our own heart. The roots of all war and conflict and violence and injustice lie within us. Let us too recognize that peace begins with each of us. When we show mercy to ourselves, forgive ourselves, accept ourselves, love others, then we are able to radiate peace and love to everyone and everything we interact with. Let us remember Francis as the patron saint of animals, of ecology, and of peacemaking. May Francis inspire us to identify what we are called to, and then reform relationships and systems through love. And for those of you who think of Francis and animals and want to bless your animals this year, here is an option that complies with social distancing guidelines. In partnership with the People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals, Peace Advocate John Deere offers a recorded phone blessing by calling 833-277-4741. You'll get the number when the homily is distributed. God bless you all.